Thanks, Natalie. Hello, everyone. I'm Leanne Taylor Knight, and I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer of the DeBruce Foundation, located in Kansas City. We are committed to expanding pathways to economic growth and opportunity, and I am joined today by Mindy Mazur, a consultant to the foundation and the Managing Director of Oleson Associates, a consulting firm out of St. Louis, who has employed virtual fellows, and Alex Oleson, one of our DeBruce Career Corps members, who is a current OR fellow in Indianapolis and a former virtual intern with our foundation. Today, we're going to be sharing what we've discovered and have been learning about how virtual internships can play a role in advancing equity and career opportunities. So we thought we'd start with giving you a little bit of background. The past year, as those of you who are on this conference know, well, it has been a year that has exposed barriers and inequities in our world and throughout our workforce. U.S. internship openings actually dropped significantly. We noticed this specifically in the spring of 2020. And it really concerned us here at the DeBruce Foundation because we really care about expanding career pathways for individuals. Internships, apprenticeships, fellowships, all of the ships are crucial for preparing individuals and connecting talent with opportunity. These are essential for building a sustainable workforce and an equitable pipeline. And we knew at the DeBruce Foundation, along with others who we were hearing from in the community, that while not all internships can go virtual, some can. So by acting on what we saw, what we were hearing from other stakeholders, we knew that we could accelerate positive change and foster equity through new solutions. And that's why we created V-Ships, to provide resources and to convene virtual conversations to share best practices and valuable insights for both employees and employers. We're here to share with you what we've been learning through our efforts and to invite you to participate from whatever role you're serving. Starting in 2020, after researching what companies and organizations were doing and learning, we did a few things. First, we launched the V-Ships landing page, which is an online resource portal for employers and seekers of internships. We convened 4 national employer roundtable discussions, which are still available for you to listen to and learn from those today. They were amazing. We hosted 2 national V-Ships success workshops for college students who were job seeking in this space of internships. And thank you to all of you who are in post-secondaries in Missouri for helping us recruit students and get those into those workshops. And we even hired our own virtual interns. So you'll see that in all of our V-Ship efforts, we took a multi-level approach. We know lasting change is that will lead to more equitable career pathways and that it doesn't happen in silos. So we engaged nonprofits, philanthropy, for-profits, and individuals. We have people here today from each of those areas to share with you from their lens. Now, Mindy will share more about what we've been learning from the employer perspective. Mindy, take it away.
Thanks, Leanne. I am excited to be with you today and share a little bit about what we learned during our 4 employer roundtables. As Leanne mentioned, the DeBruce Foundation convened 4 different employer virtual roundtables over the course of the last year or so. And those included employers from all over the country, for-profit, nonprofit, small business, large corporations, and also we incorporated youth voice in the interns themselves, and we learned quite a bit. And so I want to cover 3 main takeaways that we got from the employer side of things and how we were trying to demystify how to make virtual internships or fellowships continue to happen. The first key takeaway from our employer roundtables was that cutting internships means cutting off your own training and talent pipeline. I know that does seem obvious, but that really rang true throughout all of the different roundtables. We heard this again, that everybody really embraced that by pivoting their internships or even expanding what if they already had virtual internships, that program that really gave them an opportunity to not only keep the pipeline open, but also to expand it. The other thing that really came across in terms of an equity perspective is that the pivot into deciding to take these shifts, virtual or not, exposed and highlighted a lot of barriers that were already there, but maybe some employers hadn't previously seen. Things like transportation. If you don't have a car, or if the employer is not physically located near public transportation. Not everybody has a professional wardrobe, and that costs money. Obviously, not everybody can afford to take an unpaid internship. And even with paid internships, there are other costs that factor in as well, costs like relocation. So by taking some of these positions that can go virtual and making them virtual, you're eliminating a lot of barriers, which is opening it up for more candidates and, of course, a more equitable talent pipeline, diversifying that pipeline. Second big takeaway we heard was that paid interns, fellows, externs, and apprenticeships and fellows, all of those, they produce valuable work and can play key roles in improving your bottom line. So from a business perspective, from an employer perspective, really understanding how to make it a real win-win situation. And this is true for in-person internships as well as virtual internships. Assigning real work was a theme that came across. Empowering your interns to take ownership of their projects and tasks, encouraging them to manage up, and making sure that your onboarding is set up in a way to set up your interns or your fellows for success. Do they have the equipment that they need? Have you figured out all of the different processes? Interns can take responsibility and ownership over a lot of different projects and really manage up to those, to complete those tasks and provide really wonderful work for an organization. I can say as an employer, working in a small business, that we've had virtual fellows over the past 18 months, and they have been absolutely wonderful. They've been full team members. They have served our clients very well, and they have enriched our business operations. The third takeaway from the employer national roundtables was that offering V-Ships can help you navigate the future of work by reorienting your company for digital natives rather than requiring digital natives to conform to traditional practices. We all know that the future of work will be powered by the younger generations, so why not embrace their input and their voice and their needs now? So some of the things that we heard across different organizations were that a lot of different organizations that had success, they didn't necessarily change all of the content of their internship programs, but the delivery mechanisms for them. So a lot of the program remained the same, but how they did it was what really changed. One of our employers that participated was PwC, and they gave a great example of this, and where they really kept their internship program largely the same in terms of content, but the delivery they completely reworked with the help of the interns themselves. And that also opened up some opportunities for the larger workforce within the organization as well. So it created an opportunity to modernize other things within the business. The future of work are going to be led by the interns. We know this. So again, embrace this input now, and think about some of the things that we learned, which is that, again, whether it's a small business, a large business, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's academia, not every job can go virtual. We know this, but hybrid and virtual isn't entirely going away. So how can we be really strategic about incorporating the real assets and voice and ideas of the youth that are going to be the future of our work, and use these virtual V-Ships to figure out together what that looks like? So that's the perfect segue for me to turn it over to Alex Oleson, who is here to talk to us today about when we talked with the ship's seekers, those looking for these jobs opportunities after we talked with employers, what we learned from that, and also his perspective being a former virtual intern and now working in a hybrid fellowship. Alex?
Yeah, thanks, Mindy. It was a lot of fun being an intern for the Bruce Foundation. I actually started this V-ship effort during um, when it was really happening, when things were virtual during the pandemic. So it's really been cool to see the takeaways and the transformation and the growth of how the V-ship's idea has been able to bloom and to impact both employers and employees. Um, right here we used so as Leanne was talking about earlier, we had two national workshops, and so we used a really cool platform called Remo, and that worked as a kind of functioned as a virtual meeting space where you can really network, where you can have almost conference type of videos played, as you can see from the screen. It was a really interactive setting, and really these conferences were based on three ideas, and that's to how you find, how you land, and how you succeed in a virtual internship. So insights were given from employers that were leading virtual internship programs and career building experts, as well as students that had feedback to give to people searching. So this kind of was a national thing that happened in last October, and there were over 30 representatives from colleges and universities across the country that were involved in this. So it was a really cool, exciting event, and the first one went well, so the foundation decided to have another one. And on this first leg, when we talk about first steps, sometimes, people, when they're looking for internships, don't always have the right verbiage to use in their resumes, which can be a huge barrier to just, being able to market yourself. So one of the first steps to building your career and better understanding yourself, the Bruce Foundation was able to use one of their tools called the Agile Work Profiler. And the purpose is to really help you understand and discover your own strengths and interests related to work. And we call those agilities at the foundation. So the Agile Work Profiler was able to take each individual person's passions into consideration, not just your ability or aptitude. And we saw that attendees really appreciated discovering their agilities. And then also, secondly, learning how to apply that language of agilities to their resumes, their LinkedIn profiles before starting their internships. Secondly, is finding that ship, right? So, like I said, employers and career building experts shared tips about gaining access to ships, including those internships, fellowships like I'm in now, and apprenticeships and micro internships. Micro internships might seem like a term that is unfamiliar to some of you, and a really cool example of that is the Parker Dewey micro internship. They offer opportunities that are virtual, they're paid, they're short-term professional projects, and they're open to college students and recent graduates. In these micro internships, they range from working with entrepreneurs who are supporting like a large enterprise to smaller side projects. And then earlier this year, actually, the foundation invested in Kansas micro internships. There's a pilot program starting, which is a collaboration with the Kansas Board of Regents, the Kansas Department of Commerce, and Parker Dewey. And these are just one of those ways where you can take small steps to bridge that gap between college and career, and to help students really expand their career pathways. And then lastly is just landing the ship. So, prep, show up, follow up are three easy, takeaways from that landing a ship part. And just giving practical advice was a huge part of the conferences. Hopefully if somebody was really strong in finding a ship, maybe landing the ship is where they could really gain some practical knowledge. So giving expertise on ways to prepare, ways to show up for your interview, and then follow up are really important. Preparing for your interview in advance was part of this. So just doing a little look into some homework into the organization, what their mission is, maybe some people in leadership or people that you might be reporting to as an intern, if you can get any of that knowledge, can be really crucial. Also, just using that talk of agilities when you're in those settings, because that also might help you understand what you want to do in your ship. As far as virtual interviews going, checking your tech in advance is huge. Talking to your family, as many of us know, during the pandemic, we were at home, internet connection can be rough. So talking to your family, letting them know that you're going to be in an interview or you're going to be in a work meeting to help minimize some of that distraction was something that was also discussed. And then, of course, for us, like darker melanin, higher melanin individuals, having a light. I have my LED light sitting right here. I have the light behind me, so that's something that can really help just give you confidence, make you feel comfortable in the setting when you're on your camera. I think that's another huge tip. And then we also just talked about, after that interview, setting those thank you emails if applicable, handwritten or sending something on email. And then lastly, succeeding. So that's the kind of the final leg of the conference and the final leg of the initiative of V-Ships for the employee side. It's really landing that. So just things about onboarding, making sure, as Mindy was saying, that you have equipment, that if you don't have it, talking to your employer, seeing if they can get you a hotspot or a laptop to use. So those are all just really important things that can lead to your success in your internship, and also lead to just more equity in the workplace as we think about, and from an employer perspective, as Mindy was saying, just being thoughtful about those things. Not every high school student that's going into an internship might have a strong internet or a computer. So making sure like those things are asked instead of having to be asked can be huge. And similar to those transportation and businesses hire things, really those things can be overcome in a virtual setting, which can be really, really beneficial to expanding those career pathways. And I think the foundation was so pleased to just work with college students and employers around the country to help students continue to expand their career pathways. And I'm going to pass it back over to Leanne.
Thank you. And I'm just going to mention that we see you and hear you in the chat. Thank you so much. These are some great questions that are coming through. We have been able to throw up here what we have seen as benefits to the V-Ship seekers, as well as benefits to the V-Ship employers. So Mindy, do you want to talk a little bit about each of those? I'm going to keep kind of curating our questions so that I can answer them in a coordinated way.
Sure. And I can't see the comments since I'm sharing,
I know.
so I'm happy to. Okay, that sounds good. Okay, well, just really to kind of recap what the three of us just went over. There are many benefits as we were learning and continue to learn from employers and from the job seekers themselves in thinking about V-Ships through an equity perspective. Some of the benefits for the seeker side are, again, gaining that valuable professional experience that you might not be able to gain in a physical setting. You can still expand your professional experience through virtual internships or fellowships or micro internships, etc. Working from anywhere, again, removing some of those barriers that might not seem like barriers to some of us, but are very real to others. No commute, that saves time, money, energy, a number of different things when it relates to certain positions that may not require a physical presence. Benefits to jobs, to V-Ship employers, again, building your workforce, expanding that pipeline of talent and diversity in terms of your candidate pool. Even in hard times, we learned that people did amazing and very entrepreneurial and innovative things to keep those jobs happening by investing in a little bit of technology and giving in other places. Again, that talent pipeline and reducing overhead costs was in some cases a silver lining that came out of some of the positions going from in-person to remote. And again, those are things that that can translate across future internship or fellowship programs and maybe into other positions as well, as we're seeing in the larger workforce. In terms of next steps, do you want me to hit this, Leanne, or would you like to?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. I'm
Okay.
kind of coordinating, and I've also asked our audience a couple of questions because I'm like, I want to hear from them too. So
Sure.
keep blowing up the
Okay.
chat over here, people. We are going to touch your questions in a minute.
Well,
Awesome.
I'll make this very quick then, because this actually tees up the Q&A, and we wanted to make sure we had a lot of time to answer questions and have a real conversation as part of this, because it is an ongoing conversation, and we're all learning so much, and very grateful for the DeBruce Foundation for convening this type of conversation, and then for the state of Missouri for inviting us to share what we've been learning. In terms of next steps, if you're an employer, really consider what you can keep or what you can expand upon in the virtual workspace when you're thinking about those, whether they're people entering the workforce for the first time, or they may be career switchers as well. Also, I talked about paid internships. We really, I think, have a point of view that is totally an equity. It's that is a baseline thing to be able to pay your interns and fellows to level that playing field. If you're a higher ed professional or advocate or influencer in the audience today, what are ways that you can help? Maybe you're not able to hire or run an internship program, but you can certainly help spread the word. You can partner with the DeBruce Foundation and other employers to help. Sometimes it's just that connection, finding that opportunity if you're the job seeker, or if you're the employer looking for the right person to bring in as part of your team. And if you're a student listening today, check out the V-Ships resources. We'll put that in the chat if somebody hasn't already. And connect with your mentors and networks to explore what kind of options might be out there for you. And with that, I'll stop sharing my screen so that we can all get together and do some more conversation.
That would be great. And I'll just kick it off. I know that we're going to have some help here from Natalie. So Natalie, checkpoint me on if I miss any of these questions, but some of them we'll be able to tick off fairly quickly, I think. One of the questions, the first ones was about internet access and what did employers do to help students or individuals who might not have internet access. Some of our employers who we did interview across the national series did mention that, and they literally, you guys, boxed up technology equipment along with like hotspots and all kinds of things, and worked to try to break down some of those barriers. We can also go back and try to see what some of those really specific things were, but they literally said those were questions that they had to ask as employers. And as Alex mentioned in his time, to also teach students who are looking for these opportunities to be really mindful and to be assertive and to ask for what you need in this space, because we found that the employers really wanted to try to solve for that. And so they tried to find some creative ways with that. Mindy, I don't know, do you have anything else to add to that?
Well, I would just say from a general perspective, it may be internet access, but it may be something else too. But just having that open communication with your interns or your fellows, and making sure that you create a safe space for them to tell you what they need to succeed, because it might be something that you can solve very simply.
Very much so. Thank you. Paid or unpaid, we have only supported paid internships, and we actually believe that that is the way to go through the lens of equity and diversity and inclusion. We would have a deeper conversation with you if we had more time about that, but that's what we support as a foundation and we promote, and also all of the employers we worked with, same thing. As far as, hey, how young could someone be? We actually, because we don't only work with college students, we actually work with high school students. So we at the DeBruce Foundation also have virtual interns who are in high school. We've had awesome experiences with them. Would be happy to talk with you more about that. Again, it all goes to onboarding, setting expectations on, both sides of the aisle in relationship to it, and just helping everybody have access to what they need to be able to do that. So I also had a question about addressing cultural barriers, because it's difficult to do that when we're in person. How much harder is it to do that when we are, in these kinds of e-experiences? So I know that that was one of the things they talked a lot. Our employers have talked a lot about their onboarding experiences. Alex, you also you've had more than one internship experience. So do you have thoughts about addressing those cultural barriers in this space?
Sure. Well, I think sometimes it can actually be easier to talk about things virtually than because it's just you're in the comfort of your own home. And I think just like I guess as a caveat to that, um, I think the DeBruce Foundation has like a very first of all they're very everybody all the foundation employees are incredibly open, considerate, caring, thoughtful. But there's also a lot of diversity that comes with the foundation as well. So just having a lot of different people that you can go to. Being a man of color, there's a man of color that worked at the foundation. Not everybody has that luxury, but I got to console and speak and have a actually like my kind of point of contact. Darren was we got to have really good genuine conversations every week. I had like a regular one-on-one meeting, a reoccurring meeting that was scheduled with him that really we didn't just have to talk about just work stuff. We could talk about life stuff too. It was 2020. It was the summer that George Floyd was murdered, and obviously COVID issues going throughout the country. So having somebody that you can just kind of talk to openly about life, I think was also just a really great aspect of the fellowship.
Thank you, Alex. The other thing I would say is there were three of our employers that were very intentional about saying that as they brought students on board, and this is one of the situations that it's kind of like transitioning from in-class learning to online learning. There's some things that you're like, that's just good practice to do it in any kind of an internship experience. And so one of the ones that they found to be really effective in this knocking down barriers was to have the person who managed the intern actually have a relationship with them, but also giving that individual a person who would be more like a sponsor or a person who they could reach out to who was not their manager, sometimes in the same department, sometimes in another department, but kind of giving like another go-to safe person. So you have like your manager or mentor person, but you also had a sponsor person involved in that. And so we saw that and heard that was still really important in the virtual experience. And so hopefully that's a good strategy. I think we're at 10:59, so I want to be mindful of time. Natalie, are we all the way out or can we take a couple more questions? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, I think you can take maybe one more and then we'll have to
Okay.
end it.
Alex, I'm going to give you the last word on this one. One of the questions that came in, and again, anyone can email us or contact us at the Bruce Foundation and we could try to answer other questions that you have. Alex, did you end up taking a position with your internship employer, and what's your area of focus and expertise? And no, you cannot hire him because I get to hire him before anybody else on this line does. So Alex, go.
Yeah, so I interned with the foundation. Although I did not that's not where my full-time job is. I'm still really involved with the foundation. I'm on here today, but I'm also a member of the DeBruce Career Corps, which is a group of there's 3 cohorts now. So there's a cohort of high school students, there's a college group, and then there's also a young professionals career group. So that's kind of where I'm still involved with the foundation, giving feedback from the perspective of a young person who's just started their career. I graduated last May, so I was in the college group for my entire time of college, and now I'm in the career group. So been very fortunate to continue to be involved with the foundation and the work that they're doing. As far as what I'm doing, I'm in a fellowship that's based on business and entrepreneurial and civic engagement in Indianapolis. So might be coming back at some point to Kansas City though. That's where I'm from, and that's where all my family's at.
Thank you so much for your time with us today. And yes, all of you in the chat, hopefully I'll be able to get a copy of this chat. I would love to connect with any of you. Mindy and Alex and I are here to support you all, as is the foundation. Anything you're doing to expand career pathways, we want to hear about it and be in on it. And thanks to all of you who are already out there and partnering with us. Thanks for all you're doing to bring equity to Missouri and to opportunities.
Thank you so much. We have about 10 minutes before the ending keynote speaker for the day, and actually for the whole thing. starts. It starts at 11:10, so you have 10 minutes to get something to drink, get settled in, that kind of thing. You can reach this by going to https://eduvents.do.mo.gov, and I'm going to put a link real quick here in the chat for everybody. Really appreciate talking to everybody from the DeBruce Foundation. You guys were fab. I didn't have to do anything, so you were great. I am going to have the chat saved. I don't know how organizers, Sarah Selmans is on here, and she's one of them, so she might be able to answer that a little bit better for you, how they can get the chat to you. So if you would like, you can email me, and I will forward that on to Sarah and see if she can get you hooked up, okay? For everybody else, give me just a second, and I will put the link to the next thing in there, and we will make sure that you can make it to the last speaker of the day. And of course, you can always go on our website for that. But there we go. All right. Thank you very much.
Natalie.
Bye, everybody.